it is your buddy Peace and Harmony with you here today. We are taking it all in stride. Much love going out to all the beautiful empowered harmonizers. Thank you so much for your viewership and your continued support and your well wishes for a speedy recovery. We are making great progress healing here, and I will be out of this collar, this puppy here, hopefully within the next month or so. So thank you for your patience in my recovery, and let's proceed right now with your healing journey as well. So we're going to zoom in and focus in on a great viewer question, and that was, they're concerned that they are becoming, if they're like a covert narcissist or if they're more of an avoidant personality type. And so really, the main thing to look at is, where is your state of empathy for yourself as well as for others? Do you have the ability to feel and care for others? Do you allow yourself to go there? Or do you feel a sense of like social anxiety? If you care for others and it's what you really want, but you're holding yourself back because of anxiety, then you can look at, am I developing that dysfunction? Am I in the recovery mode? Have I been there before? And if so, how can I repattern it so it's in a more natural, joyful way? In other words, how can you be yourself and have fun and not have to constantly edit yourself because of fear or trepidation of what another person's going to do, say, think, etc.? So, really it's coming to terms with this in your own mindset. It's understanding that you have the privilege to be yourself and to not succumb to fear or evaluation by another. So especially, just getting squared up here, especially if you've been in a relationship with a covert narcissist, a malignant narcissist, or a psychopath or a borderline, oftentimes they are distinguished in their personality construct as having a lack of empathy, and they can be highly critical of others in overt as well as covert ways. In other words, critical by not really giving you what you need, not giving you the love, not giving you the affection, not validating you, not taking, your circumstance at hand as important. They tend to constantly be all about themselves and not really attend to you. So it can become like a subconscious attack and, or criticism, and realize that the physiology is affected by this. When there's been many studies that show that when someone is criticized or attacked on that level, it still elicits the fight or flight, the saber-tooth tiger response, the fight, flight, or freeze mechanism. So your body nowadays, we still have that, primordial, reptilian and limbic part of the brain, as well as the prefrontal cortex, which is the most newly advanced, the critical that factor which analyzes everything. Realize that fight, flight, or freeze is still triggered when you're around these critical people. So you tend to be in that hypervigilant mode, where, again, you're on high alert. And then this energy can be very depleting. It's you should be able to enter into and train yourself and reprogram and recondition yourself to be comfortable in relationships. You deserve to live the rest of your life in that comfortable manner where you don't have to constantly fear and have trepidation that you're around a highly critical person, highly judgmental, causing you that social anxiety and to kind of feel like, I need to retreat. I need to, be reactive and constantly be in the hypervigilant, and then maybe be triggered to attack them or be critical of them. And you don't want to engage in that fight. Don't step into the boxing ring. If you're finding that, you do not have empathy for others and you just want to use others, then you can look at, say, well, am I lacking humanity in my relationships and I just don't care? Or is it more like I want to care and be able to be safe, to have a connection with others, but yet feel happy in that connection, i.e. just being yourself, not being, being impervious to any criticism, but getting away from those people who just want to edge out. The whole thing with relationships is they're here for you in good times and bad times. I mean, they're able, if, a good friend, you can identify, well, what is a positive social interaction for me, and how can I incorporate that and integrate that into my day? So where you can have a smile, conversation, you can hold your own, and not, be fearful of being overly seduced by that person. In other words, using the role of metacognition from here moving forward, that higher energy, that higher part, that higher consciousness, when you interact with people, being able to incorporate, and then, being able to keep boundaries and standards, that's the new, not BS, not crap. Let's do boundaries and standards, boundary and standards. What are your boundaries? What are your standards? What are your boundaries and what are your standards? So if you can then utilize empathy, which means the ability to listen to and care for others and know that you are good enough to listen and be a caring, empathetic person, and not give yourself away, i.e. not over obligate yourself. Oftentimes people get stuck in the over obligating, over giving, over affection, over talking about them. So keeping in mind now is a tool of metacognition, the balance that comes with that, incorporating balance. So looking now at your relationships with intention, and then giving yourself furthermore a pat on the back when you do a good job. In other words, I had a good interaction. I had boundaries, I had standards, and I had balance. So, in other words, I was able to talk about myself. I was able to receive. I was able to talk, about the other person and give to them in a balanced format. So when you can incorporate this new dynamic in feeling in relationships, you encourage trust in yourself and then trust in others. It's being able to now trust in your judgment, not in the judgment that was instilled or imprinted by another person. That was just another person. Now you have the ability, through waking up, that role of metacognition again, which is the ability you have to think about what you're thinking about, the higher consciousness, your higher self in relationships. So being cognizant, being aware, calling in, tapping into that experience. So maybe you need to step aside for a moment, get closer, see how you can maneuver in a new fashion in relationships, and seeing how you can manage it, and so that you feel more in control versus, the out of control, sabotaged or victimized mode. So it's a way for you to have a reevaluative stance. And so if you've been avoiding that, then give yourself a little bit of a challenge and say, okay, I'm, concerned maybe that I'm becoming too avoidant, and how can I gently move softly into a relationship, and then, begin to receive the good and then give the positive as well. And, give yourself a little bit of a chance to experiment, because the relationships with healthy others is going to feel different for you than a relationship interaction with the problem makers, the narcissist, the psychopathic. You're still going to have the roller coaster a little bit, even in healthy relationships. There's times when they're sick. There's times when you're sick. This and that occurs. There's always going to be that element of surprise or uncertainty in relationships. So the world is your oyster once you begin to incorporate and becoming aware of those things, and then knowing what trust is, and giving, furthermore, taking it to the next step, giving yourself a pat on the back when you have been able to participate in relationships in that with boundary, standards, and balance. And, because you can see the aftermath of the dysfunctional and how that was not where you wanted to be. So it's like really realizing that you're no longer attracted to that, and that's okay. It's okay to let that go. You're in the flow of life. And then pretty soon you get into the interweave of life, like the Celtic designs. You've got this going this way. They're very beautiful, or like the mandala, which is like more about the peace and the consciousness within yourself and the different realms and shapes and colors and experiences you have, begin to feel very rich emotionally when you enter into relationships. When you do that, you begin to really value your sense of being. And if you've been avoiding, oftentimes you're afraid to feel something new. You're afraid to learn to trust yourself, or you don't know if you have the tools. So it's kind of like if you go out there with the tools, if you go out to the garden with the tools, you're not going to get so much junk underneath your fingernails, because you don't have to, scratch and claw and struggle and, and get dirty. You've got some tools. You've got a hoe. You've got, a spade. You've got your seeds there. These are all analogies to kind of entering into relationships. Make sure you go out with some mental cognitive tools from here now out, and see that you will apply these. See if you can have a vision of how you apply these. What does metacognition look like for you? What does a boundary look like for you? What does a standard look like for you? What does reward and a pat on the back look like for you? Who can you, interact for all different experiences, all different people? They can be, light, they can be deep, you can have trust, you can have reciprocity where you learn or listen to others and you're able to give feedback, but not over obligate or not over listen or absorb their energy too much, becoming aware of your own energy and being comfortable and, have gratitude. I'm a softer person here. I'm a stronger person here. I'm assertive here. I'm, very compassionate here. Begin to look at the qualities of your own energy when you enter into interactions, and become to value that and prize that and realize that that is what makes you human, and that, and humane. And then furthermore, you will grow in that experience. In other words, your feeling of mission, your feeling of sincerity, your feeling of authentic interest will begin to grow in you, and you'll begin to give yourself a pat on the back. You need to enter into a couple of these dimensions of yourself and really assign a sense of positive regard, i.e. validating yourself, rewarding yourself when you do a good job. In other words, it's like treating that component of yourself like a little child who's really like Jesus says, be as children. Get into that state where you're kind of like the curious child, and you tried something and you did a good job and you got a sticker. You really do need to give yourself positive self-regard when you did. I used good judgment. I made a good investment. I made a good investment of my time. I was able to apply this. I was able to practice that. I didn't sit on my duff. I didn't sit on the couch. I didn't mope. I wasn't apathetic. I got a little happy here. I'm feeling more human. So these are all the experiences that I want your inner voice to begin to express to you. But, take some action, take it to the next level, and give yourself a pat on the back and just say mentally, I did a great job here. Amen. I handled this well. Amen. I was proactive here. That was great. I moved forward and I gave myself a recovery gift. That's why I definitely recommend, having an appointment book and making time, blocking out dedicated amounts of time for you to have moments, i.e. feeling a certain thing and following up on a specific thing that you want to grow in. So growing is going to feel like growing pains, but you're going to experience a richness. If you've been avoiding things, ask yourself, why have I been avoiding this? Why have I been avoiding moving forward here? And allow yourself to answer, because you will answer. It's like learning to have dialogue with yourself is key to playing and feeling comfortable the game of life, really where you're at, especially after you've been through some very traumatic relationships. There's a lot going on in the healing field. There's been virtual reality that is now incorporated for those veterans of war who have post-traumatic stress syndrome to the point that they're actually hospitalized. They're using virtual reality to help incorporate their vision and helping them to reset their neurology and remind them that they are safe, to get you into the present moment. So realize that there's a lot of tools that if you're experiencing this holding back or drawback, there's a lot of tools that you have in your tool belt that you can utilize and apply and kind of go out into the garden of relationships and being able to keep it nicey nice for yourself. And being like, it's okay to be nicey nice. It's good to be nicey nice. I've got these tools. And as you incorporate it consciously, okay, so you need to incorporate it consciously, and as you do it again and again and again, it'll become natural. You'll be doing it unconsciously. It's like riding the bike or going through those stages. It's called, initially you're unconsciously incompetent, so you don't know that you've had trouble in relationships. You're just unconsciously incompetent. You're not going out there. You've got the social anxiety or the avoidance. And then you become consciously incompetent, which means you're aware that there's some dysfunction and problems going on. And it's like, I'm aware that things have to change. And then you become consciously competent, where you're then realizing that you've got these tools, you're utilizing them, you're now moving forward. And as you repeat that with repetition and experience, then you become unconsciously competent, which means you're doing it automatically, like riding a bike, and you're just liberated and you're free and you're enjoying it. The tools of relationships are very much the same way. You apply them consciously and then incorporate them, validate yourself for doing it. And then as you repeat it again and again, you will begin to learn those new social skills, no matter where you're at in your life. I don't care if you're in your 20s, 30s, 40s, 50s, 60s, or 70s, you're on the growing path. You are going to feel more expansive, more enriched, and more excited, and feeling like you're happy, that you're going places. Your emotions are taking you places, something positive, and you're able to fully let go 100% of anything that's holding you back, and you feel liberated and free. That is the end goal and really where you want to get. So give that a little bit of a taste and see if you can help eliminate some of that avoidant distress that you've been experiencing in your life. It is your buddy, Peace and Harmony, with you here today. And I hope that these videos do help. Please share and please subscribe for more great tools, videos, discussion, and support.